Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Andrew. So 5 years ago, this October, November, my ex-wife and I built this home. And within about 2 to 3 weeks after, I built this fireplace for it. It took about, 2 to 3 weeks to build. I could have probably gotten it done a lot sooner, but I was busy shooting weddings and it was fall time, so I was busy with all that. But I really like how it turned out, and it seems like a lot of other people liked how it turned out as well. I actually did a blog post on my website about how I did this, and it's my most viewed blog post on my website. So I figured I'd go ahead and do a YouTube video about it, just kind of like walk you through the photos, showing you like what materials I use, what tools, the process I took on building it, in hopes I reach more people on here and show people who aspire to do the same for their home. Now there are a few things that I would do differently on it. For example, the tile, I would definitely adhere it to the cement board a different way. I used a material, I can't remember what it was called, but it was just very runny. I think it was actually supposed to be used to secure tiles to the floor. So it was kind of dripping off here and it was coming into the seams of the tile. So before I put grout between the tile, I actually had to go through with a really sharp knife or whatever and just kind of chisel out the dried material. So that was kind of a pain and took me a bit longer. But I don't know, I think it looks great now. Some of the tiles are a little raised. It's not like completely flush, but I don't think anyone really notices except for me, so I guess I can be okay with that. Before I show you how I did this, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. It would really help me out a lot as I try to grow this channel. Let's get into it and I'll show you how I built this fireplace.
Alright guys, as you can see here, this is what the wall looked like before the fireplace was built on it. You can just see a boring console table there. And then here's another angle of what the wall looked like before the fireplace was built on it. You can see no sconce lights, anything like that. Kind of bland. Alright, and then here's where I started building out the surround. So I went ahead and mounted it to the wall so that way it's all secured there. I just built it out with 2x4s, as you can see here. So this would just be where the cement board would be secured against. And then you can see to how I built the frame out to hold the fire insert. Now the two vertical 2x4s that are on both sides of the insert are actually coming out a bit. They're not flush with the rest of the frame. And that is to allow space for the cement board and the tile. Once I put the glass cover on over the insert, I needed to have some sort of space in there to allow the cement board and the tile to get in there. So you might notice those are off a bit, and that is why. And then here's what the surround looks like once I secured the cement board to it with the appropriate screws. I went ahead and just threw the glass cover over the insert just to see how it would look and see what the spacing was like for the tile that I decided to use. The photo that I showed earlier with the tile was not the tile that I used for the final finish. You'll see that in a little later when I show how I secured that to the cement board. And then next up is actually creating the legs, apron, and mantle for the fireplace. For these, I just went ahead and used 1/4 inch thick MDF board. I don't know, I like using it. It's just very easy to work with and it's much cheaper than buying other woods. So it's held up really well over the 5 years that I've had it. So as you can see here, I just went ahead and cut the pieces to size. I had to measure differently off the wall from either side just because it had some differences in depth. So I couldn't cut them exactly the same size on either side. So as you can see here too, I went ahead and started cutting trim that I would place around, just securing it with a nailer and some liquid glue. And then that way it creates it more of like that craftsman style, shaker style, whatever you want to say, fireplace. And then here are just some additional photos of the progress of adding that trim to the legs and apron and all of that. Here you can see I was very impatient and I wanted just to see how it would look with the insert installed. And yeah, it got me excited and it started looking great. And then once I had put all of that trim on there, I went ahead and just patched up the holes with some wood filler, sanded those down. And then next up was adding the crown molding underneath the mantle. All right, well, just kidding. As I'm going through the photos, it looks like I did the surround next with the tile. So as you can see here, I laid out all of the tile on the kitchen island. This way I can make my measurements for my cuts. So that way I knew if it properly fit around the insert and the legs and apron and all of that. So I went ahead and measured them out, made the cuts, and then here you can see I started to place it on the surround. And as I mentioned earlier, I definitely used the wrong material for this. I actually got a bag of the material from a friend. They suggested I used it, but boy, were they wrong. I know I should have used something differently. Yeah, as I mentioned, it looked like it was supposed to be used for floor tile. But I made it work. I tried my best. The only problems I really ran into were the material went through the cracks of the tile and it made it very hard to add the grout. So I had to kind of chisel that out and make room. And then the other thing I ran into was just using the wet saw and how these tiles were, adhered to the sheet. Sometimes they would fall off the sheet, and then I would actually have to go and secure them with tape and make sure that they were properly placed. But it looks fine in the end. You can't even really tell. So I guess it worked out in the end. Now, crown molding is something that I had never done before, but I'm glad I learned how to do it on this project because I was able to use what I learned and do my entire living room last winter. So I went ahead and just practiced with some inside and outside corners, as you can see here. Also, just to kind of dial in my miter saw, get the angle correct and all that. It wasn't perfect. I had to go back and make some recuts, but I think it turned out really well. All right, so in this photo, you can see that I finished up applying the grout to the tile. And then I also added some baseboard and some quarter round molding at the bottom on the floor. There was also decorative trim that I added. You can see like right above the surround going horizontally, I went ahead and cut some decorative trim there. And then I also applied some decorative trim around the mantle just to give it a little bit more of a design. And then finally, I primed and painted the fireplace. I used 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of semi-gloss paint. I used Sherwin-Williams Extra White as it was the same color as the baseboards and the crown molding that I eventually added. And here you can see the final product. I think it turned out really well. I really enjoyed this project and it actually made me want to do a lot more home projects around the place. I might share with you more of those. If you guys want to see more of the house projects I've done, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. But yeah, I hope this helped you if you are deciding or trying to decide if you want to do a very similar project. And like I said before, if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys.